Welcome everyone to Haven of Horror. I am once again Subject879, joined by my buddy Doolittle, who is a big Rodriguez fan, who we're talking about today. We are discussing the 1990s horror film The Faculty, written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Robert Rodriguez. This movie tells the story of a group of outcasts from their high school who discover that the school is being taken over by aliens. This has a really good cast, including Elijah Wood, Josh, what's his name?
I think it's an H last
Hartnett,
name.
Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett, Jordana Brewster, Robert Patrick, who we just talked about last video for a little bit, and some other people that I can't remember their names right now.
Jon Stewart is in this movie.
Jon Stewart is in this movie, yeah. I would describe this as, the classic invasion of the body snatchers / the puppeteers, but written by the guy who did Scream. So, Doolittle, what do you think of The Faculty?
Yeah, so I thought it was just like a very kind of like fun, alien invasion movie. And it's interesting because this is a very like underrated movie in some ways because like I had like never known it existed until like very like recently. I want to say like you were the one to kind of let me know this movie existed. So like and I'm going through the Rodriguez's filmography. So I watched it and it's like it almost felt like an itch that like hadn't been scratched where it's like yeah, like I've always wanted to see like a high school invasion of the body snatchers type story like this, and I thought it was great. I thought that obviously there might be some like minor like situations going on with the screenplay, but I don't really mind, and I understand the circumstances because it seems like this movie was like somewhat rushed behind the scenes, but like I never really got the sense of that really with the final product. Because Kevin Williamson, he was supposed to direct this movie as well, but he stepped away, and Robert Rodriguez like replaced him. So it's interesting how that worked out.
Yeah, and I
But
think it worked
yeah,
out
it's
for
really
the
good.
better.
Sure, yeah. Because it's really fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Kevin Williamson as a writer quite a bit. I don't like everything that I've seen from him, but like this is really good. Obviously, Scream is a classic,
Yeah.
but I don't think I've seen anything that he directed that I like.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fair.
Actually, I
I
don't think he's directed anything.
No, yeah, he was supposed to direct this. I was very surprised to see that because I don't typically associate him as a director, in my mind at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've always seen him as a writer. And I was expecting this to be more not like Scream, but like I was expecting it to be like more like meta, and there is a little bit of that towards the end, but not like a lot. Like it's just like a fun like high school horror movie with like aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah, it gets a little meta throughout because you've got Stokely, she's the Jamie Kennedy of this movie. She's a big sci-fi nerd. She's read the original Body Snatcher. She's read The Puppeteer, and like they use that information to figure out what's going on, how do they defeat it.
Oh yeah,
But it's not to the level of Scream where it's like we're playing by the rules of a genre of film.
and it's not. I don't know if it's like saying anything with all that stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I
again,
don't think so
you
either.
get a yeah, like you get a little bit of it, but like it's nothing too. I think it's just like a nice like cherry on top,
Hmm.
where it's like yeah, like we're like self conscious of it, but like we're gonna have fun with it anyway, kind of a thing. That's kind of how I interpreted it. It's not like a critique or anything like that. If that's like a better way of putting it, it's more of just like we know what we're doing here, kind of a thing.
Absolutely. Um, to correct myself, he has directed one film. Funny enough, it was the film he did right after this, Teaching Mrs. Tingle, which I have not seen.
Yeah, I have not seen that.
But I don't know. I would rather have had Rodriguez than him, especially if he didn't have any experience, directing a film. And I think Robert Rodriguez brings an energy to this film that it needed.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you get that right from the opening kind of scene. but also like little things too. Like there's a scene in a classroom where a teacher picks up like a coffee mug to drink it, and the camera work is like so like like creative with that. But it's just a guy picking up a coffee cup and drinking it. Like it's little stuff like that. You're like, why did you do that? But like, it's really cool that you did that anyway. And I'm happy you did that. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool.
Yeah,
Like, it's very
absolutely.
creative.
I think the beginning scene completely sets the tone for this movie because it's like
Absolutely.
you've got the football team and you got like the Offsprings playing, um, and it's the kids aren't all right. Maybe a little too on the nose, but I don't know. I didn't mind
The
it.
movie has a very 90s soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely. This
Uh,
movie is very 90s. Like the school they go
yeah,
to is insane.
yeah. I mean, the moment you see Elijah Wood as like a young actor in this movie, you're like, yeah, this is a 90s teenager movie. You know what I mean? It's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he was really good in this movie. I thought Elijah Wood's character was like the nice kind of like he was like kind of like the sympathetic like soul
Hmm.
of the group, where you're kind of following him and like you kind of like are on his side a lot more. And he did a really good job.
Yeah, so we talked about in the From Dusk Till Dawn video, but I think From Dusk Till Dawn may be his best movie, but I think this might be his most underrated movie.
Oh, Rodriguez, yeah, definitely.
And funnily enough, this was his very next project.
Oh, immediately after From Dusk Till Dawn.
The, yep, this came out 2 years later. I
Yeah.
think this movie's strong point is its characters because I like all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that it's able to convince you that even though the twist at the end is the most obvious thing you could have done,
Sure, yeah.
it convinces you that it's not what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Like they definitely do a good job with like setting it up and then like paying it off, but in a way that like even though like you said it's obvious, it's not like I didn't feel like my intelligence was like insulted at all during this movie.
Yeah, me
I kind of
neither.
felt like this is a movie that like knew what it was doing the whole time. I was just having fun with the concept.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's like, oh, of course, it's the new kid who moved to town right before the weird shit started happening. But you established
yeah,
it couldn't be the new kid. But of course, she would have a way to like hide herself because the only test they have to do is test them by using their weakness, which we'll get into just a moment because it's my favorite thing about this movie and how insane it is.
oh yeah,
I do want to mention as well because I did not realize that this, but Usher is in this movie. He's the
he
football.
is.
He is the kid that replaces Stan as captain of the football team.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that was Usher. That's
I
cool.
didn't either. I don't think I've ever seen him like in anything. He's
Yeah,
only in it for like 5 minutes, but I really liked what they did with Stan. He's the guy that like quits the football team, and he's like, I want to be recognized for my own achievements, not just sports. Like if I get a
yeah.
D, that's my D.
No, yeah. I thought that that was handled really well. I thought that Delilah and the way that she treated that whole thing was like, definitely made sense for her character to be like that superficial kind of person or whatever. Um, and that, that he dumps her for that reason and he succeeds on his own terms. I thought that made sense. Um, it was like a good character thing to work with throughout the movie.
So
I have
then,
some issues with Delilah, but we can get to that.
well,
But
that's actually what I was just about to ask because I agree with you that I buy her as the shallow girl, but I don't know if I buy that she suddenly is okay with dating Elijah Wood because she's taken
uh,
out very early in the movie, and so like her character, I don't see her character change.
that's the exact problem I have. I kind of I felt very weird about that. I wasn't sure where that came from, really. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but she's like taken over, yeah, much earlier than everyone else, right? That's the idea. Because there's that scene that's kind of like the thing, with where they each have where they all have to take the drug,
Hmm.
or whatever, and she's the one that's revealed to be like the thing, like that's taken over.
Yeah,
So I did not understand where that came from at all at the end. Like it just felt like a nice, like, happy moment
everyone's
for that
paired up.
character.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they're like, oh yeah, naturally this has to happen this way. kind of a thing, which like whatever, but also it's like I don't know, but it wasn't. I don't know. I didn't really care. I also like I understood it was a problem, but I also don't really at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean they do kind of set it up at the beginning because it's like they're the first two to kind of figure out what's going on and like they're kind of working together. But when you take her out so early in the movie, it's hard to develop that relationship to a point where I believe that she would be willing to date this guy.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So I do have to mention this because we talked about the meta stuff. John Stewart, we mentioned, is in this movie as a teacher, and his character name is credited as Edward Furlong.
Yeah. That's good. That's
Wait a minute. I think all of the names are meta.
well, I know that they are doing some there is like that nod to Terminator, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I guess it really is just as John Stewart's character. There was a couple other
Yeah,
names on here that looked familiar, but
they probably aren't.
yeah, nothing that I'm seeing. Okay, I was wondering if we were doing something with the names there, and it just went over my head. Danny Masterson's in this movie for like 5 minutes too.
Yeah, yeah, he very, very quick, but he is there. He is
Yeah,
there, and he's good.
he's credited as fuck up.
That's funny.
That's really funny now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. How did you feel about the alien design? Like at the end, but and all that. How'd you feel about that?
I liked it, but I wish it had been more than just like generic brown slug thing.
Oh, sure, yeah. I thought it surprisingly the CGI looked kind of good for the time in some shots, and then other shots obviously you can tell it's like CGI, like 90s CGI.
The one that comes to mind for me is the scene with Jon Stewart where they cut off his fingers. That shit
Oh
looks
God,
terrible.
yeah, and obviously that's like a 90s thing. But yeah, no, that looks pretty awkward nowadays.
Yeah, I'm just like, you could have done that practically. Like, come on now.
It could have, yeah.
So with this being more of an ensemble cast, did you have any favorites among the main group?
Well, I definitely liked Elijah Wood's character. I think he was probably my favorite. But I
Okay.
also do like the drug dealer character.
Hmm.
I thought he was really good. I thought his performance was good.
That's
Um,
Josh Hartnett.
yep, that's him. I thought he was good. Um, yeah, I think those are my two favorites. I think.
Speaking of weird like relationships at the end, was it weird to you that they kind of hinted he ended up with the teacher?
Yeah, that was strange, and we've definitely are in a different time now. Although it's, well, I think he's like a multiple, like he's held back multiple times, right?
He was held back
But
at least once because they talked about he could have finished his senior year already. But like, I don't know,
yeah,
still he's still technically a student.
no, yeah, and that's still that no, that's still very strange. I thought it was like something absurd, like 5 times, but like that's not true. So that's still weird. In either way, it's really strange.
It's very
Um,
strange.
very different time back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
played by Jean Grey. That's Jean Grey as
she
that
is, yeah.
character.
I
Yeah,
love her change when she's possessed. It's hilarious.
it's really funny the way that she's like super angry. Yeah,
She's just a complete bitch. It's
yeah,
great. He ends up, I think, being my favorite. I have a soft spot for that. Like the world has just shit on him constantly, and he's just kind of like sarcastic and bitter about it.
yeah, yeah.
And Josh Hartnett knows how to play that. So I'm gonna use that to segue into their main weapon against the aliens, which is what really made me love this movie because of how insane it is. Zeke, played by Josh Hartnett, develops drugs in his basement. And it's like a homemade like version of cocaine, and they find out that it is a weakness that the aliens have. They can't handle the stuff. It like dries them out because these aliens need water constantly. So their only weapon against the aliens possessing their entire hometown is homemade coke. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Um, and it results in that scene I was talking about earlier with the drugs and
Uh-huh.
how they're like they're it's like the scene from The Thing where they're trying to see which one is real.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, that's very the
and
thing. Yeah.
yeah, but they do an interesting thing with it where because they're laughing during that scene from the effects of the drugs. and it creates like a really cool but and like eerie dissonance between the severity of the situation and them laughing, because them laughing is funny, but like in the context it's like definitely like it kind of adds to like the frustration and the anxiety that these guys in the background are like laughing and cackling, from the drugs that they just took. So I thought that was like really well done, and I thought that they play with that in an interesting way.
He's tweaking, man. Just let him tweak.
He's tweaking, man.
Yeah,
Um,
because like Elijah Wood loses it. Whoever plays Stan is like, "What the fuck is wrong with you, man?" It's great.
it's really funny, yeah.
Yeah. I like you said. It's just kind of a. I have a soft spot for these like '90s teen horror. This was very much obviously trying to like capitalize on the success of Scream. They even got the writer of Scream. This is obviously not on Scream's level like at all, I think, but it's just like a solid movie, and I really hate that this kind of flopped because I forget how I discovered this movie, but I've been a fan of it since I was a teenager, and anyone who tells me they like Rodriguez or Scream, I'm like, you need to watch the Faculty because it's wonderful.
Well, I think it was like 15 million budget, and it made 63.2 million. So did it flop?
It
Or
was
was that like
considered a flop because they wanted it to do Scream numbers.
oh, and yeah, I don't think this movie was ever gonna do that.
Yeah, like so they wanted it to do Scream numbers, and so just to compare, this movie is made for 15 million, made 60 million, around 60 million. Scream was made for 14 to 15 million and made 170 million. So like even if it technically was a success and like they made a profit by the studio standards, it was a flop, which is a shame.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, it's interesting how they really were thinking like that, but this is very clearly not exactly like Scream is a thing. So it's unfortunate that they were like comparing those two things when I don't think that they're that comparable outside of they share the same writer. So it's unfortunate it worked out like that.
Yeah, and it's also a shame because it looks like there's not a commentary for this movie. Unless it's on one of the Blu-ray re-releases where they were like, hey, talk about this movie. But yeah, this kind of become one of those cult classics. Like if you know it, you know it. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts on The Faculty?
It's definitely very underrated. It's not perfect, but like I don't think that really matters in this case. It's just a really fun ride. I'm definitely gonna recommend it to people. Because it's just like a fun '90s teen horror movie.
Mhm.
With like Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of influences as well. And Robert Rodriguez directing it, so it's always a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just a fun film, fun time. Great cast. Like most of these people went on to have pretty successful careers, I think. And the main thing is it never loses that sense of fun, but also being like you can tell it's a horror flick.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5. It's good. It's real good.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Oh,
I feel like that it works out that way. It's not perfect, but like it's really fun. So I feel like that kind of goes with that rating, I'd say.
absolutely. Well, Doolittle, I think that is all the time we have for this one. But this was fun. Thanks for being on the show, man. Milton should be back next week, but Doolittle will be back at some point as well, of course. They love having him on here. And thank you guys
Yeah.
for watching. Have a great one.
All right. Yep. Take care.